In this post, we'll be setting up a worker environment on Elastic Beanstalk and using SQS as our active job queue. Active job is a framework for declaring jobs and making them run on a variety of queuing backends. We'll be using active Elastic job to do the heavy lifting for us. So this post will mostly be focused on the configuration to get this job working. Now our first protocol will be to go to the simple queue service. So let's go to our AWS management console and find SQS. So we're going to create a queue. I'm going to call mine active job demo. Our visibility timeout, this should be set to longer than the amount of time we think our job will take to run. I'm just going to set mine to 300 seconds. So let's create our queue. So our queue has been created. We now need to go to the IAM portal and make sure our Elastic Beanstalk has access to this queue. So first of all, we'll go to our environment. We'll check the configuration and we'll go to instances and we'll check the instance profile that is being used. So I'm using AWS Elastic Beanstalk EC2 role. So if we now go to services, go to the IAM console, go to that role, find our Elastic Beanstalk EC2 role, and we need to attach a new policy to this that allows it to send messages and manage our SQS queue. Now I'm just going to attach the Amazon SQS full access policy. You might want to create a new policy that limits what this EC2 instance can do on SQS. So now we're ready to create our worker environment and set up our Elastic Beanstalk application to use SQS and active job. Now the first thing we need to do is go to our currently running web application and modify its configuration and add a new environment variable, AWS region. I'm running in EU West 1. So we'll apply that. Then we'll go back to our demo application and we'll create a new environment and we'll create a worker environment. So we'll be using Ruby. We'll just deploy the sample application initially and we want to configure more options. To change our platform configuration so that it matches our web server, we're using Puma. In the environment settings, let's change it so we have a sensible name. The software configuration, we just set up the environment variables here. So AWS region EU West 1. We should tell this that we want it to process active Elastic jobs. So we add process active Elastic jobs and set that to true. We also want to copy across our database URL and our secret key base from the web application. So let's go to the configuration of the web environment. Copy the database URL and copy the secret key base. We save that. On the instances, we'll bump ours up to a T2 small. On security, we want to make sure we're using the same instance profile. And on the network, we choose our VPC and we run inside our private subnets. And for our security group, we'll use our web server security group. You may want to create a new security group for your worker environment. So let's save that. And then on our worker tab, we want to pick our active job demo queue and save that. We're now ready, and then we'll kick off creation of our worker environment. While that's being created, let's have a look at the changes we need to make to our application to support active job. So in our application, we need to add the gem active elastic job, and then we also need to add configuration so that active job knows to use active elastic job as its queue adapter. So in your production environment file, config environments production, set config active job queue adapter to active elastic job. Now for this demonstration, I've made a very simple job called capitalize name job. The important thing in your job is you need to give the queue name to the queue as. So queue as active job demo, that's the name of the SQS queue I created earlier. And then we have a simple perform method. All I'm doing is taking the name of a person, capitalizing it, storing it into a new property on the object, and then saving that. And then in my people controller, on the create method, once the person has been saved, I call perform later on the capitalize name job and pass in the person whose name I want to be capitalized. So let's see if our environments have finished being created. So while our demo worker environment's being created, let's deploy our new application to our web environment. So we run use the environment we want to update, and then deploy. So our web app will now be updated. So our worker environment has now been created. Let's deploy our application to our worker environment. So use, name of our environment, then deploy. And our application is now being uploaded to our worker environment. So we're now ready to test our application. So here's our application running on Elastic Beanstalk. Let's create a new person and see if we get a capitalized name for him. So create person, go back, and we see that capitalized name has a capitalized version of Jim. Let's do that again. You can see our active job is working nicely. If we look at the SQS management console, then we can see that we are sending and receiving messages, and we can monitor how our active jobs are doing. So that's the end of this post on setting up active job on Elastic Beanstalk.